Why did you leave out what provoked DEI? Why did you leave out what provoked affirmative action?
I want to throw to another clip of Stephen A, because now let's do Stephen A that, okay, maybe it sort of makes sense. Maybe it was racist, or we can relate it to Trump or something like that. But to make the other point, here he is going after my buddy Clay Travis for talking about DEI in sports and a whole bunch more.
Why did you leave out what provoked DEI? Why did you leave out what provoked affirmative action? To sit up there and call for its eradication across the board, where race and color and gender and sexual orientation and all of this other stuff doesn't get taken into consideration. Why do you ignore why it existed to begin with? If you acknowledged why it existed to begin with, and you said that was then, this is now, I would feel you. Because at least you're taking ownership of the iniquitous acts of the past by your race of people. Not all, not most, but some. And if you take ownership of it, then you're empowering yourself to change it. But if you don't take ownership of it, you could never, ever, ever be inclined or provoked to change.
I just think whether you agree with the guy or not, the way he talks makes you just want to listen, and that's why he's getting the paycheck. But, okay, going after Clay for DEI, I mean, we should not have institutionalized racism. That would be the sort of bumper sticker for me on that. But what do you guys think?
Well, I always laugh when people try to fight racism with racism. Like, that's like trying to fight obesity by seeing how many, Snickers you can eat in an hour and a half. It doesn't make sense. My problem with what Stephen A said is Clay Travis was never a slave owner. Clay Travis, I've never seen Clay actually be racist. I've never been a slave owner, right? I think at some point it's a lack of knowledge historically. Yes, there's been inequities in the past. There's been inequities in the past going from continent to continent, from different colors of people. Any type of inequity, I think, is a bad thing on its face. But at the end of the day, we live in an era now where we don't need to fight racism with racism. The few times where it happens, and it can happen to every race, because racism is not owned by one race. But what Stephen A is saying there is basically like, well, Clay Travis, you're not acknowledging what's happened in the past, so therefore you can't talk about what happens in the future. I haven't done anything to anybody, and if you know history, this isn't a one-trick pony.
Well, Stephen A. Smith better not tune in to what we had to say about the Emmitt Smith DEI conversation this week at the University of Florida. Florida stripped those 13 positions for DEI based off the Board of Governors, and that was the right move. And Emmitt Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, comes out and says, this decision absolutely disgusts me. And what I had to say about it was, since when is that word synonymous with one particular race of people? And Dave, this is where I have to give you a lot of credit. I mean, you've been a big inspiration for me, just the growth that I've experienced personally and politically over the last few years, because I remember a time when I would describe myself as libertarian or classically liberal, and you had the courage to have people like Larry Elder on your show. And not just have him on your show, but when Larry Elder would come in and bring stats and bring facts, you would listen to him and you changed your opinion. And, kudos to you, because that's why, we started this show and why we're at the Daily Wire and hopefully standing up for these same sorts of things on the sports front.